Peace, salam, shalom. In any languages, may be peace be with you. May peace be on you. Maybe you live in peace. Peace is the ultimate goal in this world. And in order to have peace, we need to have freedom and justice. These are two basic conditions for a peaceful life and for a peaceful community, for a peaceful world. Today, I will be discussing jury trials in the United States with you. And it was last minute decision. I invited some people. I know that they may not be able, maybe they did not even see my invitation. No problem. I have a lot of experience in this issue. And also I will give you link, Zoom link, those who are right now watching and participating in live chat. And I will be also inviting you to discuss the issue. For about 1 year, I had daily jury trials with the exception of weekends when I worked at the Superior Court on criminal, and we also had civil trials. It was all about trials, jury trials. And therefore I dealt with juries. I watched, observed from the beginning until the end, from morning until evening, various jury trials. And also once in the United States, I had a chance to be a juror. And it was a little anomaly because they usually do not accept lawyers who have low education to become a juror, because it is the voir dire is based on striking, eliminating potential jury members. And I will be discussing about the problems with the jury and advantages, great things about the jury system. First, just in the beginning, let me say, in short, I think the jury system in the United States is a great system. It takes justice from hand of the few. The elite could be very corrupt sometimes, could be authoritarian, cruel. It takes away important decisions from their hand, though they are able to make the law, but at least people who live, who pay taxes, theoretically, they are the ones who will apply the law or maybe sometimes nullify the law. It is called jury nullification. Therefore, I think it is a good check and balance system in the system. Initially, when I came to the United States, when I studied the law, I got my doctorate degree in law. I studied also philosophy before, undergraduate and graduate classes. But later I decided to go to law school at the University of Arizona. And in fact, it was a good law experience. In fact, we had also Justice Rehnquist, the Chief Justice for the United States. He also gave a course about Supreme Court, landmark Supreme Court cases. I had great experience. I was the only one in the class who was arguing, engaging in an argument with him. Anyway, that it was a beautiful experience I had. I enjoyed every minute of it. And because of that law experience, I know that time I was against the jury trial, especially when we all watched when I was in law school. It was 1995. I don't remember exactly the year, or 1998, between 1995 and 1998. I studied late. When I came to the United States, I was a political dissident in Turkey. I escaped for my life, and my higher education right was banned, was taken away by the government, because I was a political troublemaker. I had about 4 years in prison in Turkey for my writings and political activities. Therefore, They didn't allow me to continue my higher education. Therefore, when I came to the United States after age 30, I started college from fresh. And therefore, I was late in law school. But that time, I didn't appreciate the jury system. In fact, I wrote a short article in Wildcats, university's student newspaper, daily newspaper, critical of the jury trial because of my disappointment in O.J. Simpson case. And their jurors, of course, jurors, they were influenced by, I am going, meanwhile, admitting some people to welcome to join us. Then jurors were influenced by a very cunning, sophisticated law firms who defended O.J. Simpson. He had money. He could buy the best lawyers, defense lawyers in the nation. Prosecutors, unfortunately, didn't do a good job. And therefore, he won the case, though it was obvious he was the murderer. So much evidence there, and so much also motives. But the jury was easily, unfortunately, in that case, they were convinced that he was not the killer. But in Rodney King trial, check internet, Google, search his name, Rodney King. And he was beaten for cruelly, brutally by police officers. It was one of the first cases of video recordings on the street that became popular. Recording, the camcorders became popular. And it was one of the early influence of visual information, popularity of the visual information. And then that, unfortunately, these police officers who use excessive force and unnecessary force against this guy who is on the floor, who is being beaten by clubs, several police officers beating his body and his head. And he was trying to protect himself. And it was long, cruel, but clever defense lawyers who defended the police officers. Rodney King was black, by the way. And they were able to use psychology, sophisticated ways to convince jury members police officers had good reason to beat him so much while he was on the ground. What they did, I remember very well. Unfortunately, the prosecutor was not smart enough to rebut these clever tactics. They repeatedly showed this video. By this way, they create the desensitized jury members. They became dull when they see over and over these beating sessions. They analyze it. They show slow motion and stuff. And then what they did when the police officers, when they were hitting Rodney King with clubs, he was trying to he was reacting to it. And how they did, they said, here it is. He is reacting. He is a very strong guy. And police officers are scared of him. Therefore, he could come and beat them. Therefore, because they were scared of him, they were beating. In fact, his reaction was not a reaction of aggression. His reaction was simple reflexes of every living creature. When you hit them, when you beat them, when you inflict pain on them, they react to it. It was reflexive because I was beaten by soldiers in Turkish prisons, terribly with clubs. And then you jump around to save yourself. but he couldn't even jump around because he was down and several police officers would keep beating. That cruel video, if you watch it, how in the world jury members would acquit those cruel, torturing police officers? It was psychology. They slowly desensitize them. Desensitize, I don't know whether I'm using the right word right now. They became sensitive. They became non-sensitive to the issue because they keep repeating. And also they slow it down. And then they showed the effect as the cause. They changed the order. And unfortunately, the prosecutor did not expose that trick, and jury members acquitted him. And he was not rich. And therefore, jury could be influenced well. I want to show you a couple of pages, and then I will come to the issue why we need reform. I think it is a good thing, the jury system, but I think at the same time, it needs an important reform. Please have patience. Right now, we'll share with you before I want to show you a couple of things. Pages, where are they? Gosh. Okay, now I need to open. Okay. There is problem in Google screen. Okay, now I am able to show you. Okay, this one in the jury trial I attended. Jury reaches the verdict, we are guilty. It is at 19.org/blog/homeless. And this was an experience that I had in a jury box. I know how they are influenced and what kind of jury we end up with. And I have watched, basically observed, I think, almost 100 jury trials. And each of them, they were electing jury members. Therefore, I'm pretty familiar with voir dire. And please go read this article, very important article. And I will share with you what I did here. And this homeless person, it was in, what year was it? Why I don't have the date of this, goodness sake. Anyway, I have the court records. I think I should have it, okay. Oh, 2011, here it is, the number of the case. 2011, it has been 10 years. Wow, I don't know where he's now. And another article, I will talk about this experience. And then another article, to strike or not to strike. Selection by elimination creates leftover juries with less diversity and competence. This is my observation, and my studies shows that the jury system is the way it is picked and elected. And here it is, I have Rodney King's first trial, I give example, and O.J. Simpson's first trial. And then selection by elimination reduces quality and diversity of jury. And I will talk about it. I want just to get this one to your attention. The answer, I think, at least 4 components. We'll talk about this. And here it is, right now it continues. And I fear that this jury will be influenced by the defense lawyers. And I hope not, but it is possible they may end up with acquittal despite all these powerful evidence. Powerful evidence, what are you talking? All of us became witness, because if it was live murder, it was not the first case murder. It was the worst case of murder, worst case. He slowly, with his hands in his pocket, he killed the guy in front of the people, in public, on the street, with his knees on his neck. 9 minutes, 29 seconds, George Floyd suffered on this racist, evil police officer. It was a cold-blooded murder, and I claim it was a first-class murder, in fact, worst-class murder, not second manslaughter, because it was premeditated, and it was also willingly done. It was previously this guy's mindset, racist mindset, prepared him for these kind of things. Therefore, the minute they treated this guy, put your effing hands on the steering wheel, put your effing hand on your head. The way they treated this guy, they wouldn't treat a rich white man in an expensive car this way. But because he was black and poor, two things, two crimes in the United States. If you are poor, you are already in negative position in front of the police officers, unfortunately, the way they are trained, mindset. And if you are black, you have little chance. And therefore, they didn't have empathy to this guy. And of course, I blame those people who watch. If I was there, I would be attacking the police officer. I did it in my time, my life. When I see these things, I don't become a bystander watching. No. You have an affirmative responsibility to stand for justice. When a human being is tortured and killed in front of your eyes, you don't watch it and then regret it. Cowards. All those witnesses, they were cowards. They were immoral. Therefore, I find immorality. When you see a human being like you is killed by a subhuman, he's not an animal. Animals do not kill this way, torturous way. They kind of do for survival. This one enjoying this guy, put his hands in his pocket and posing. Anyway, now this is, therefore trying this case in fact seems a farce. It's 2 times 2 equals 4. This guy is guilty of first-degree murder, not manslaughter, because his mind was prepared much before he killed this guy. He was ready to kill a black person, and he found this guy a good one to do that. Therefore, but still we have jury trials, and I'm going back to this one, and then soon I'm going to finish it. Here are, in summary, my suggestions for jury trials, for jury election system. 1, we should make it more difficult for judges to excuse highly competent jurors. Let me make this bigger. Can we make it bigger? No, not from here. Okay, I hope that you can read. Let me go here, maybe. Okay, I couldn't make bigger. Let me see. Aha, now I can make it bigger. Okay, here. First, I want to again go top. This is from 19.org. The title is 19.org. I'm sorry, the domain, the URL, the address, 19.org/blog/voyeur to strike or not to strike. Current jury selection method makes the system prone to exploitation and abuse. Current selection procedure eliminates those candidates who are more aware about current affairs, who show high level of intellectual abilities, and demonstrate signs of critical mind. The current system creates less random, less diverse, and less competent juries. Thus, it compromises the quality of fairness of jury trials. The paper demonstrates the weakness of the jury system and suggests 4 potential reforms which require further study. And slowly I go. You may push the space bar to stop it and read it here. Otherwise, you can go on the site, watch it there. Don't be lazy. Welcome, people. I'm going to soon start discussion. O.J. Simpson's first trial. And then, okay. Okay, after 2 months, 12 people were the jurors, which I call the leftover jurors, the O.J. Not regularly read a newspaper, but eight of them regularly watched tabloid TV shows. 5 thought it was sometimes appropriate to use force on a family member. These are information gathered after the things. All were Democrats. 5 reported that they or another family member had a negative experience with the police, and 9 thought that Simpson was less likely to be a murderer because he was a professional athlete. Anyway, selection by elimination reduces quality and diversity of jury. How, Edip, you end up in jury box? Because I really tried my best not to appear informed and very smart. My personality, you know it. I am outgoing, I speak out my mind, but when they ask me a question, I knew the game. I played the game. I wanted to be in the jury box. I didn't lie, but I didn't reveal everything I believe. Therefore, when they asked me a question, I was demure, I was shy. I acted as a very passive person they want. They wanted to be cheap because otherwise, one party finds my ideas, they think I could be voting for the other side. If they think I have some strength in me, they will eliminate. And therefore, I wouldn't end up in the box. But I was in the box. I experienced in the jury. I know the dynamics outside and inside I live it. I will share with you that one too. First, we should make it more difficult for judges. In the beginning, in fact, just before even lawyers start eliminating the jury members, the judge eliminates. How? About 50, 60 candidates are invited to the court. You leave your work, you call your work, says, I cannot make it today. I am drafted, I am invited to join this voir dire session. You go there, and then you enter in the box. It is whole day maybe, or half a day is spent on this. And then they ask you questions. The judge asks you questions. Who are you? What are you doing? What is it? And stuff. And then if you are a doctor, you say, well, I'm working, I need to go to work. You are excused. If you are a professor, a teacher, you are excused. If you have an important job, you are excused. And many people are excused this way. Or if you have an experience in that area, because you could be biased, you are excused. That's interesting. Well, they don't want people who have experience. That's interesting. If you are informed about too much issues, if you have position on some issues relevant to the case, have any ideas about political or legal ideas, you are eliminated. And therefore, the leftover people already, usually the dullest section of the population, they're retired people, or people who have no idea about the world. Some of them are good people. I don't want to undermine. Some of them are very smart people, but not as overall. And then what happens? And then it is the time for lawyers after, let's say, I don't know, I forgot how many jurors left over there. Let's say 30 of them candidates. And then each of them has certain number that they can strike out. And then it is reduced, let's say from 24, if each of them strikes 6, and then they end up with 12 jury members and few spare. That's it. Basically, they eliminate any jury members they think he's thinking, he's questioning, but on the other side. And of course, you have a smart person could be either on that side or on this side, could be perceived this side or that side because of some information about their demographics, about their jobs, about their person they try to get. I don't know whether at that time, whether they were accessing internet about that jury member. And then either party they will eliminate. And
So,
I'm so, yes, Yusuf, just let me finish it.
Yeah, no problem.
Second, knowing that in the Simpsons case, more than 200 prospective jurors were eliminated, the pool of prospective jurors should be limited to not more than 4 or 3 times of the final number. Therefore, if it is 12, it should be around 36 pool of potential jury members, and from 36 reduce it to 12, not from 200. Too much elimination. And third, we should modify the preemptory challenge rules by letting each party pick 3 and strike 3 out of the 18 prospective jurors who survived the voir dire. We might even consider letting each party pick half of the jury. Therefore, we should have mix, because we don't want every jury members is strong-minded people. We need also some in between, impartial people, but not so-called impartial, because impartiality is ultimately equated to non-information. That person is isolated from society and doesn't have conviction. Well, having with these people, it's not a good idea either, because they don't have conviction, or at least they appear that way. Therefore, we should give the lawyers to strike few and to pick few, eliminate and pick. If it is mixed, I think we have a mixture, more diverse jury members. We'll have some jury members that could discuss the issue in much better way to the other jury members. Fourth, competent might be explosive. The fourth component might be explosive, but it is worth considering, at least theoretically, to expose juries who do not have capacity or competency to understand and make judgments on the intricate factual disagreements of a particular case, such as DNA evidence or stock market. They should be subjected to a competency test. I feel the ghost of Plato smiling. The questions of the test should be prepared by court and the two parties. The scores may not be automatically used to dismiss any prospective jury, but they may provide valuable information for lawyers in their selection. Okay, and this one is in that jury room. I found this guy who was a poor guy. He was found in a public park. A police officer. I want to close it here and then turn back to my guests here. I have only Yusuf here, and the others are waiting maybe. Okay. I want to give the link, Yusuf. You may start talking, because I want to talk about my experience as a juror, how I influenced and I changed their mind regarding the verdict. But they didn't go as far I wanted them. I wanted them to go to nullify the law. It's called jury nullification, but they didn't do that. Therefore, I provided them with cover. Okay, let me give the link. Go ahead.
So, in essence, on some of the things you've mentioned
Oh,
there.
welcome, Yusuf. I didn't see your name. Nice to see you.
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon, Edip. If it's afternoon there, I'm not sure. It is here in Manchester. Yes. But on some of the points you've mentioned there, it would almost seem they're setting up show trials in essence, if they're having people without critical thinking capacity to be part of the jury, and they're searching almost for the weakest link. That doesn't really seem like a fair trial if you have that selection, does it? Seems almost set up, really, when you think about it. Like, yeah, surely you'd want the most like critical thinking, able to have independent thought and look between the information provided of the case. But they're just looking for
an argument for this kind of jury elimination. The argument is, if they go to jury selection instead of elimination, you end up each party would pick the very stubborn, already radical people on certain polarized jury members. And therefore there will be very kind of like pro-government or pro-individual, racist, white racist, black racist. Do you understand? They will pick the extreme, and those extremes over there, instead of focusing on the facts, their ideology dictate them how to decide. Therefore, they will not be impartial, and they will not be also really compromising on the facts. They will pull, and you will end up with a lot of hang up jury, kind of juries not making decisions.
I think a lot of the problems in the United States versus here in Europe and the UK, it's got to come with the culture and the history over there. So one notable mention would be in the Second World War, when American pilots and soldiers were coming and getting stationed at bases in the south of the country near to London to help with the war effort against the Germans. The American government had to create videos, tutorial videos and instruction videos on saying, like, you're going to see black people in the United Kingdom socializing with English people at bars, at cinemas, cafes and things. And this is a normal thing, like, get used to it. And although we don't have this here back in the States, because back then they had heavy segregation up until I think the late 60s and around that time, Rosa Parks, things like that, those examples. It shows really the issue of race and racism. It's quite ingrained in American society, unfortunately. And what we're seeing now with the American police and I'll call it as it is, murders. You can say police brutality, but in most of the cases, they're just outright murdering people. And you've seen them planting bags of drugs on victims, weapons. And now, thanks to technology, we can video this, and this will go on social media and things like that. But you don't see convictions hardly. You look at the conviction rate of these cops that are murdering innocent black people for having a damaged car indicator or blinker, as they call it over there, or the most silly of reasons for pulling them over. They end up executing them and saying, oh, he reached for his pocket or something. Maybe he was getting his wallet out, or even sometimes they weren't even moving. They just pulled the gun on them and shot them. It's a terrible thing, really. We don't really have this issue here in the UK with our police. Here in general, it's a much more tolerant society. There's a lot less racism. However, the problem we've got here is with our justice system, and our justice system here is infamously messed up. Like here, somebody will, for a possession of cannabis or something, which is, it's almost legalized here now, and in other countries, Canada, Germany, Spain, etc., they're moving towards that. Somebody who gets a possession for cannabis, they'll get like 7 years in jail. And a pedophile or somebody who's done crimes against children, they get a few months and community service. What kind of justice system is this? And this is across the board here. It's terrible. Like
legalization drug was really a way to imprison many people. Those who are rich people, they can use cocaine, any drugs they want in their mansions, in their places that is protected. They can do anything. But poor people, usually they are on the streets. They don't have really that kind of luxury to enjoy those vices in their secure places, especially homeless people and stuff. Therefore, and also in the United States, they had more penalty for some drugs that was mostly used by minorities, by black people rather than white people. White people's choice of drugs had less punishment. And it is really designed to incarcerate the poor population and the minority population, and to create criminals out of them. And by this way, make them invisible, and they cannot even vote when they cannot work. And it creates a perpetual way of oppressing them, because when they end up in prison, they come out, they don't have any, in fact, their life's interrupted. They are already directed to a criminal way. In fact, prisons in a way create a criminal network, help them to create.
Yeah,
It's not rehabilitating, it's not educating. Over there, someone, a novice enter there, become a professional criminal, comes out, and then they don't find a job because they already have record, and they end up in the criminal. And then by this way, they stereotype them. They are criminals, they are bad people, and they continue this kind of policies growing. It is really a racist, evil system. And therefore it needs to be changed. It starts with empathy with the Black people. If you raise in the family that he is in the neighborhood, in poverty and under police brutality, in a crime-infested neighborhood, you would turn out like that. Therefore, show some mercy for these kids. But even a little petty crimes is so much finds violent reaction by police, by the society. Yeah. But the biggest criminal, biggest thieves, a Black person or a minority or a poor person, white, regardless, if steals a small things, $1, $2 worth of it, steal a bottle of water, that person ends up in prison. But this top, they steal billions of dollars. Guess what? They legalize that theft. There's so much theft is done by big thieves, and they get away with audacity, and they are honored, they are celebrated people, like Donald Trump. He's a thief. Yeah. He never worked in his life. He stole from the taxing. He stole from working people. All he did, he was just using the law that passed, made by the corporations, and stole from that. Like in this country, there are banks, 3 banks, I remember in 2017, I believe, 3 banks alone, they made $7 billion from just one item alone. What was it? Overdraft fee. It is from the poorest section of this society. The poorest people, imagine they suck their marrow and they get $7 billion out of those poorest people. They are hungry, they are homeless from them, or they are basically working 24, more than 40 hours, 50, 60 hours a week to make the ends meet. From these people, they transfer this money, siphon this money to the richest portion of the society. That is a crime. That is the biggest theft. But they don't end up in prison because they make the law. Therefore, this needs to change. Okay, Hakan, welcome.
Yeah, Edip, thanks for the invitation and for the explanations you did so far. But as I find, as Yusuf said too, there is a whole lot of area to grasp, you know, because on the one hand we have a society and a clear view of a society which is also religiously rooted in the United States, and on the other hand we have a judiciary law system, which you call, and I think when you go on and say, yeah, well, the jury system is not well balanced, or there's a game in place, then how can you change a whole society without modifying the bottleneck, which is the selection of the jury? So let's look at the bottleneck. You can change a whole societal system. As I remember, in the early 90s, Rodney King's case, and before, there were many rap musicians which stated clearly there is a racist system in the United States, and they longed to write it in their songs and reach so many people with their messages that this injustice against Black people, especially people of color, should stop. And that never happened. So we have a culture of it right now. Face it, if you look at it, 1991, Rodney King, and before that in the 80s, there were already been songs about it. And we are not talking about several years. It's about almost 40 years now since this has been a culture in the Black society in the United States and elsewhere too. So how can we overcome a bottleneck, keeping in regard that the most part of the United States is also a Protestant believers, people of Protestant belief. So let me state it clear, I'm from Europe, and so I'm also in a position to view some things from the continental point of philosophy. So if you watch it from the continental point of view, where Protestantism has derived from Martin Luther, then you can find that there is a meaning in why the United States is challenging people with their societal stand and money. In a Presbyterian, in a Protestant belief, you are only successful if you have money and you have a certain status. If you're not in the let's say, if you're not in the midst of rich people, or if you're not successful in your life, then your lack of belief. So there's a correlation there, which we have to keep in mind. And by changing a system of law, you then have to change a system of belief too, or at least keeping in mind that there is a bottleneck which will try to represent all parts of the society in the nation. So how can you build up a jury without keeping respect that there is a large majority of Protestant believers and also a majority of Black people and several, you can name it. And I don't think that we can go on and keep the bottleneck unregarded, but to change a law system, you can only do that by keeping the larger picture, let's say, in the view. So you won't be able to convince any capitalist manager to change his mind if he has a possibility to avoid law and not be judged in the way how poor people are judged. So if anybody has the chance, he will certainly do that. I won't keep it as a monologue. So
thank you. Hakan, where do you live? Where do you live?
We talked in the past days. I'm from Germany, so I studied philosophy here, and
How do you know so much about United States? You remember even the year of Rodney King incident?
Because I myself, I'm an enthusiast for hip hop music a long time, and because of my friends, I got in touch with these topics, and also learning English was part of my educational life. I tried to get my hands on American comics as far as I could. Yes, please.
Thank you, but you are a Turkish man, you speak English, you live in Germany, and behind you writes Brazil. There are 4 countries right now.
Like your division.
It's very confusing.
On peut du français aussi, mais c'est pas important maintenant.
We speak French.
Oh my God.
It's like the United Nations in here. We've got all the countries.
I try to be as I think this is one point which we have to keep in mind. How can you change a society without education? I mean, you can be rich, you can be in a status of society, but as far as you're not educated and you just live off the richness of your ancestors, you won't be educated.
It's not only education. It is not. I don't think that the racist people, they don't have education. Education, yes, children, I understand. But education plus certain cost for what they're doing. I do think that people who do evil things or justify have bad ideas, and when it is in their self-interest, usually they don't reflect on what they are doing. They are in a defensive mode, justification mode. it is easy to justify racism in the United States. If you want to become white racist, my gosh, you can easily, out there so much excuses. Look at the statistics. Look at the criminals. Who are they? Mostly black people.
Yeah.
They are bad people. Look, they kill, they steal, they do this. And they are basically take the piece out in our society. They're dirty and these kind of things they do, they see it. But they don't want to see that this is created by their ancestors and by themselves, by their very own society. They are accusing their victim for being victim, which in this shape. For example, in Turkey, I've been accused, why you are speaking in Turkish, speak Kurdish.
Of course.
Then with you, it is because of you, I cannot speak my mother's tongue.
Yeah, but
your
racism,
forced assimilation, cultural assimilation and genocide in Turkey deprived me from my mother's language. And now you are accusing me, why you are not writing books in Kurdish? Go write in Kurdish, not Turkish. Yeah. They are both the perpetrator of the crimes. They are criminals. At the same time, they are the good people. Yeah, therefore,
what I want to say is that the racism problem is not unique to the United States, or let's say the justification of racism. You can find it everywhere. There has been it's a long time ago, but there has been American stand-up comedian who said in his stand-up, he said, oh wow, there comes a Hispanic and you saying that he's stealing your job. Well, what kind of job must that be that you cannot get, but someone from Mexico will get? He cannot talk English. He just nods and walks his way, and he's getting the job. And because he's a kind person, you're envying his nationality, or his job, or making him as a
scapegoat.
Yeah, he's then the fiend. Let's say he's your
excuse
enemy. Yeah, enemy for lack of work, or for lack of you can say Benjamin Franklin, right? What did he say? It was the pursuit for happiness, isn't it? Yeah. If your pursuit for happiness is not enough to get the job you want and in the area you are good in, then how is it that a Mexican guy crossing the border can get the same job? So in every society, I think enemy systems are very much used to keep the masses in control. So what you're really doing is, what you're really doing is let's say social engineering, right? So if you build up enemy systems and they can change from day 1 to day 2, then you can point your finger at them and say, yeah, look at them. They did this to you. They are the cause of your, how do you see it in English?
Misfortune.
Yeah, misfortune, exactly. Yeah. And by saying that, you're also taking the responsibility of it from the hands of the people. Yeah, you playing mind games with them. And I can see it in Germany very clearly. We have a new party here, which is a far-right party, similar as the Le Pen party in France, which are building up enemy systems. And by doing that, they try to make mind games with people. And the people which are electing them for being in the parliament, they don't get it, that they are just a party to get the money, to overcome law system, which is also in place here, as in every country, but they want to abide the law. They just don't want to live by the standards as everybody else. They want their own law. And this is not only a racist system, it's a financial system. And if you look into corporations, you will find the same system. There will be an elite, let's say, section where you can't go to. It's your boss, he gives you 5 minutes to talk about something. And if you're not making the point, you're out. So let's face it, the corporal system, or corporate systems, I would say, has become a has gotten to politics and to law also. So there is a transfer in place, which is now going on for almost 20 years and more. But anyhow, I think the change of a law system or jury system is not that simple.
Yeah,
okay.
it's complicated.
Okay, today will be in fact cutting this shorter than usual. We have a few more minutes here, and basically is very good points. Thank you very much, Hakan. I appreciate it. Yusuf, what is in Britain? I want to learn. Is it also jury system?
Yeah, we do have a jury system here, as far as I'm aware, but we have a problem here with, like, I wouldn't say corruption, but more or less that. Like, sometimes people get bribed to not stand as witnesses and things like this, and this is like an ongoing issue. They're working on sorting that out, but the problem is here in general, our justice system's just a mess. Like, when judges and things like that give weak sentences, the problem here is the police do a good job. Generally, they do a good job. They catch the criminals, pedophiles, drug dealers, murderers, whatever. The police are quite efficient here, and we don't have like a situation like America. Like, here, the police have tasers. There's an emphasis on peaceful resolution, handcuffs, dialogue with would-be offenders. The problem is the police arrest whoever's done the crime, and then basically the courts let them off. They let them out on weak sentences. Like, murderers can get 10 years here sometimes. Can you believe that? 20 years, and then they get let out, and things like this. And people who do crimes against children, which are the most vilest of crimes someone can do in society, they get 7 months and community service orders. Like, what is that? These people destroyed a child's life forever, and they're going around with 7 months sentences, and then they get let out because of good behavior. Like, our system is a mess. And if you look on social media under like GMP, Greater Manchester Police Facebook comment pages, London, things like that, and the police here, they announce on Facebook when they catch someone, they show his photo and what crime he did, and so sometimes they do follow up and show what sentence he got. And underneath the comments, you see thousands of comments of the British public saying, why has he got a weak sentence? Throw him in jail and keep him in jail. Or like, sometimes somebody got a sentence for like a small possession of cannabis, and he's got in 7 years, and a murderer's got like nothing.
There's no
like it's a joke here. It's a mess. Nobody believes in the justice system here.
Yeah. Okay. And thank you very much, Relum. Do you have anything to say on this? I know you are not living in I am the only one who lives in the United States. We have from Britain, from Germany, and Relum, where are you from?
I live in Germany, and my parents actually are from Kosovo. So, well, I didn't prepare that much for this at all. So I'm just listening, and
okay.
Yeah.
No problem. I should have done this kind of ahead of the time, organize it, and invite some scholars, lawyers, and judges. But last night I decided, and of course it is too late to invite people, but I thought that we could also discuss some issues, and I think it is good. Okay. I will put the link of 2 articles at my website, 19.org. Those who are in Turkey, unfortunately, some people cannot access my website because it is banned by the court. Some phone companies, they are, though that ban was eliminated, because that ban was enforced by the Turkish courts because of the complaint of Adnan Oktar, the so-called Harun Yahya, and Fethullah Gülen. And those two now, they are not in favor. In fact, they are the enemy, bad guys. But the government, this AKP government, for a long time, for years, they were serving these 2 corrupt cult leaders.
Sure.
for the many lawsuits by them, they banned my website for years, and I was able to reverse the court's decision, but it appears to be there is a phone company still keep that censorship there. And my website is also censored by Catholic Church. I learned it by accident from a former student of mine, who was studying at University of San Diego. I believe that it is a private Catholic university. And I recommended him a few of my articles at philosophy section at 19.org. And then he calls me a few minutes later and says, well, it is censored. What? Censored by what? Well, he says, this university is a Catholic university. Because at 19.org, I have two articles, letters to the popes. To two popes, I wrote extensive letter critical of their teaching and their practices. And it seems they found those letters are very, very dangerous for the faith of their flock. Their flock will be diverted. They are the herd. And people are sheep, according to St. Paul. Anyway, that was a surprise. I would expect maybe from a church, not much from a church in the United States, which is freedom of expression is celebrated, but I would never imagine that a so-called accredited university. Let me check, which university was it?
University? I have a question on that. Wouldn't you agree that most religions are a system of law in themselves, just as this? If you're a believer in the Christian Bible, then you are in principle a person who is believing in society and who's also believing in a law system. And all law systems, as I can see, are derived from biblical rules, and only that we can evolve that law system. We have what we have. So because right now you're pointing out the religious aspect of it. So the Catholic Church is in special, the Catholic Church is a system of law. If you look at it, you wouldn't see popes as messengers of belief. They are lawyers, in fact.
They are business people. They are manager of corporations.
Yeah,
they have billions of dollars money. All is their business is getting money from people, getting their before their death, getting their basically estate, and when they die, or inheritance. They all do that, unfortunately. It is just a business. Therefore, you don't see Pope debating, discussing with an atheist or with a rational monotheist like me, or with any people, live TV discussing this issue, inviting people. They all preach, monologue, not discussion, preach. The Muslims the same, Sunnis and Shiites, Catholics, Buddhists. Therefore, all religious people, all these organized religions, they are fake. They are not, if they don't discuss this issue, debate it against their opponents and in public, that means they basically, they are not honest, absolutely not honest.
I would agree, but I would point out that if they discuss a certain issue which wouldn't be understood by many people, then you have to also educate the people before you make the issue. So I think you have to manage a whole lot of mass of people. If there is one single person who can, let's say, just in an argument, display the wrong points of a belief system, then what you're doing is dismantling the society as a whole. Because what I said, when you look at Christians, they are believers, of course, and the only foundation of their belief in law is their own Bible. Or let's say for any religion, we can take any religion into account. So if you're picking out a point which falsifies a whole belief system, then you are moving a whole society into crisis. What would that be? Then you are heading towards possibly towards a lawless society, because everyone
well,
would
not
be
necessarily. Right now, part of Europe, Northern Europe, Denmark, for example, there are perhaps, I think, more atheists and deists than Catholics and Protestants. Therefore, it's changing. It's false idea that without religion there won't be order and stuff. It is the game. Okay, my friend. Yes, Yusuf. A few minutes left. 2 minutes. I'm going to close.
Yeah, I think there is some sense onto the points Hakan made there. Like it is true that the law here in Europe, at least, and maybe the founding of America is based on Judeo-Christian values, like in the Bible and things like that. However, I think since the foundings of our state and the basis of it, that that comes from Judeo-Christian values, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, which makes up our penal system. Like, I think these days it's very far different from these conglomerate religious organizations such as the Vatican and things like that. And in the Muslim world, their equivalent, like if you look to Saudi Arabia and things like that, like these days, the credibility of conglomerate religious organizations, like, in Saudi Arabia, for example, they'd always look to Saudi Arabia for the moon sighting on Ramadan and for Eid and things like that, and vice versa with Italy and the Vatican for things like that. But I think it's not as clean as it once was, or if it ever was, as a thing. So although there might be some goodness in the establishment of a penal code through religion, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, I think it's not really... sometimes religion is good, but also sometimes state is good, like a theocracy and like a secular system. Like sometimes it can be both. They can have positives and negatives, I'd say.
The 10 Commandments, the first two, let's make an exception there. The rest of the 10 Commandments, the 8th commandment, they are not, you don't need a divine book, a revelation to know that murder is bad, or lying or cheating or stealing is bad. These humans, regardless of their belief system, they learn in their life, it is basically mandate. It is imperative of living together. Rational beings, we know that contradiction has a cost, has a pain. Contradiction with purpose. Well, your purpose is to live in this society in peace and take advantage of other people's work. And you are, let's say, you are a carpenter, but you are not a farmer. You don't raise animals, or you don't do other things that other people have mastered. Therefore, you want to share your talents, skills, and product services with others and get there also best, and have best of all, and also have the security of being together. And therefore, that it mandates some rules. You need to abide by the rules. Otherwise, you will suffer the consequences. You have to respect them in order to get respect. You have to respect their lives, their production, in order to get respect. Otherwise, you'll be kicked out, or you will not feel safe there. And what was the purpose you came there to the town? You were Tarzan there. You find that being Tarzan is tough. You cannot even sleep nighttime because you have to stay on guard. The bear is coming. And therefore it is not killing or not stealing. All those things are discoverable by any rational human being, even an atheist or deist, doesn't matter. Therefore, I don't think that these rules, we need these rules from God in order. God has put in us as a true reason we discover this. And it is our nature based on this. However, the two important commandments, I think they are the most important. And when it is missing, the society becomes a class society and people are exploited and all atrocities are committed because of this violation of the two rules. Means idolizing others besides God, or one rule. Monotheism, I do believe, is the only system that can produce a much better ideal society. And monotheist, because, yes.
Edip, what you're talking in your first part, which I would agree in part, is the golden rule of Immanuel Kant, right? When he says, just treat others as you want to be treated. That should be a system, the foundation of any law, any morality, let's say. But what you get in a stable society in which Kant wrote his thesis was already a Christian society, or Judeo-Christian society, let's say. So you need a stable environment, a stable society to come to conclusions and to evolve your moral system. Without being in a social, stable surrounding, you won't be able to get anything out of what you're living or going through. So I would like to disagree in part because we had already a law system which was not good enough. Okay, we are modifying it day by day in all parts of the world. But to get there, there were religions which stated something, and they said this is wrong and this is right. So we needed just to have a start. We needed some religious input, let's say. But we don't have to stick with those starting options. We have the option to make up our minds, and as we are gaining on technology, we have to also find laws for technology which haven't been there 1,000 years ago or 500 years ago. So also these are not having religious foundations. So I agree in part.
Thank you. I need to close. There are some questions here. I will not answer right now. Thank you.